One of the most influential films ever made, 1920's The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari not only helped to establish a lot of the tropes and themes of the early horror genre, but also ushered in a golden age of German silent cinema and helped to popularize the shadowy cinematography that would become the foundation of the film noir style. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is narrated by Francis, who recalls when a traveling mysterious showman comes to his town and wreaks havoc by setting out his sleepwalker to murder and kidnap on his behalf. After the sleepwalker murders Francis' best friend and kidnaps the woman that he loves, we find out that this traveling showman is actually a doctor of an insane asylum. In a final twist, which I don't feel too bad spoiling since this movie is over 100 years old, we find out that our narrator is actually a patient in that insane asylum, and that perhaps everything we've seen before in the film is just a result of his insanity. All the film's events happening within our flawed narrator's head is really cliche at this point, but I still think it works with Dr. Caligari for a couple of reasons. The first reason is the most recognizable and famous part of Dr. Caligari, the unique set designs. Everything on the sets, from the houses to small props, is disproportionate to each other, with our houses being really short with slanted roofs and super high up chairs that have no other function than to just look off kilter for us, the audience. On top of that, all of the lighting is directly painted onto the film's sets and backgrounds. With this unique look to the film, we already feel like we're in a fantastical world, long before we realize that we might be far removed from reality. Another reason why the dream aspect of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari works so well is how they handle the ending. Once we find out that our narrator is unreliable as a patient in an insane asylum, we don't go back to the ordinary world. Instead, we stay in this weird fantasy world with our shadows and jagged objects. Even though the narrator's story of a mad scientist and a somnambulist mass murdering and kidnapping his closest friends in a small town isn't true, doesn't mean that the narrator's existence isn't a terrifying one living in this asylum. The final scene of the film, Francis is put into a straitjacket as the doctor declares that he has found a new treatment to cure Francis of his delusions. And then we iris in onto his face as he gives a menacing glare, leaving us with an uneasy feeling that whatever is next in store for Francis, even if it's under the guise of early 20th century psychology to help him out, will absolutely be terrifying. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari comes in at number 8 on Silent Arrow's Top 100 Silent Movies list, which I'm reviewing each movie on to determine whether or not I think it deserves that distinction. And I definitely agree that this film does deserve a really high place up on that list, as it's not only just a really inventive visual feast that has had a lot of influence even on films made today, but it's also just a really well-told story that is terrifying even 100 years later. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on my next review in this series when I look at E.A. Dupont's 1925 German film Variety.